Sales strategies when you're full. Hi, my name is Carol Mixon Crindle, and I'm going to talk about sales strategies when you are completely full at your store and what should you do? Well, I'm going to ask you, why are you full? Because remember, you should be increasing all the rental rates on a regular basis, and that may be yearly for some stores and maybe even more often than that. But if you're at 100% occupancy, you're not charging enough and you're really not maximizing the profitability of your storage property. So let me tell you what you can do. First off, when customers are calling, you need to determine the caller's storage needs because they may not need it right away. And if they don't, then you have an opportunity to actually, if you're completely full, you don't want to start saying, oh, yeah, I'm full right now. Sorry, I can't help you. You want to determine the correct size first. Ask those critical questions. When will you be needing storage? Because that's the most critical question you have to ask when you're completely full. So think about that. You're going to do a sales presentation anyway, but you're also going to make sure you determine the size and ask them when they're needing it because many people call in advance. So don't worry about that. A lot of the common questions people ask is how much your 10 by 20s? Well, don't answer that question either. You want to ask them questions about it and not say, oh, we don't have any 10 by 20s right now. Boom, the conversation's gone. You need to ask inquiring questions. Well, tell me a little bit about what you're storing, because if you didn't have a 10 by 20 and you had a 10 by 15 or 10 by 25, if you just say no to that answer because it's not available, that's not a good sales strategy. You want to make sure, especially when you're really full, that you are absolutely doing a good job determining the correct size. So you, and maybe giving them in to a smaller size or a larger size, depending on how they stack and pack and what they're storing. When you're determining the caller's needs, can you give me an idea of what you're storing and when will you be needing storage? Because those are critical questions. Some people call needing it that day, but other people are planners. So there's some type A people out there that they call several months in advance. Yes, we're moving and we're actually in California now, we're moving to Arizona and here blah 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 blah. So they give you a big story. Give them options to stay with you. That may be climate controlled versus non-climate controlled. Maybe it's a offer larger and smaller sizes when you're talking to them, so they can, if depending on if how well they pack and stack. And maybe if you don't have a 10 by 10, offer them two 5 by 10s. I like the two 5 by 10s questions because then you might put the things in one 10 by 10 that you know you're not going to access at all. And then the other one that the things you're going to access a lot, or maybe you put on the two 5 by 10s the things in the front that you're going to access often. So again, I have done so many things like that where I didn't exactly have a 10 by 10, but I was going to give them two 10 by 10s for that same price. And do you have a waiting list? If you have a waiting list, you need to manage it. And I mean that means working it every day. And I think you should require a written notice of people going to vacate. But as you're going throughout your day, you're going to have to say, okay, who was on the list today? Who needs a space and who's waiting? And sometimes I've just noticed managers not being very proactive about their waiting list. And then like, oh, yeah, well, now we've got three 10 by 20s. Well, I have people here that are on the list. So what happened to them? And oh yeah, I forgot to call them back. And I'll call them back later today. Well, no, that's not enough. You have to be much more proactive. So you want to get people on a waiting list, but actually work it. So give the customers paying below the standard rate and a rental increase. That has got to be what you're doing. You've got to maximize the store. So if you're looking at an industry average, you might look at a 7 to 10% increase. And yes, you will have people move out. That's the point. You'll have people move out, and then you'll have new people coming in at the higher rates because you still have a demand on your end. And so you need to be much more aggressive with your lien sales also. And you might want to try doing online auctions. I've used Bid 13. They're a company out of Canada. They're amazing. But there's so many things that you can do to work on getting, or maybe you even look at all of the company spaces you have. Really, or maybe the spaces that have a leak or that you need to get back into the rental status. Work that list and get them renting because it's really going to make a difference in how well the store operates. And when you're communicating with people like these prospects that are calling, email them, text them, call them, but you have to find a way. And you may ask them, what's the best way to reach you? Would you rather me email or text you when we have one come available? So you're trying to figure out what's the best means of communicating. Because some people, when they try to call me on like my regular phone in the house, they will never get me. They pretty much, if you had my cell phone, you'd get a hold of me. Or if you text me, it'd be a good thing to do. Even the office tracks me down. Yeah. Optimal occupancy. I do a lot of audits and just reviewing people's properties to determine how I can help them improve their income. And I can tell you, I see so many stores that have high occupancy rates, but they have so many spaces that are unrentable, in some sort of there's something wrong with it that can't make it rentable. But when I look at where you should be occupancy wise, I think is a good occupancy is somewhere between 86 and 93%. And that has kind of changed over the years, because it used to be when I was in self storage, we were looking at like if we had 97, 98%, we thought that's exactly where you stay. But now we're really realizing to maximize the store's profitability, if you're somewhere between the 86% and the 93%, that means you're continually improving your rates, and you're also customers are moving out because of that, and then we're getting new customers at the higher rate. We cannot be afraid to raise rates. You just can't, because that is the name of the game. Yes, people will move out. Some people will stay with it. People will complain about it and still stay there. I've seen people, they're 40 and yeah, well, 30 years in a storage space. I'm like, there's nothing in that space that could be worth that much money. It's not logical, but they do pay, and this is a wonderful industry for it. Remember, you have got to keep monitoring your property. If you see someone that's driving out with a truckload of stuff like this guy here, he looks like he's having a good time. But if you're conducting a walkthrough daily, you should be doing that for sure. Watching for these trucks and cars leaving the property fully loaded. You can usually check your gate and look to see what space they're in. If they've totally out, they may not tell you, but ask the customers, are you guys moving out? Because as soon as you find out that you're moving out, you need to go back to your list and find out what person needs that particular size, and who's on the list for that. And anytime they can give you in advance, you can say, hey, I've got a customer moving out in 2 days. I'm assuming they can move out, and we're just giving you a courtesy call to let you know. If you want to come down, we'll get you all set up and ready. So the economic occupancy versus unit occupancy, it's important to know when you're talking about the revenue of the store, you've got to be focusing on the revenue and not the occupancy. You should focus on the dollars in the bank, not the physical occupancy. So many managers are tied up to that 100% occupancy. Oh, we're 90% occupancy. We're doing well. I have seen stores that are 90 over. Oh, like I'll give an example. When I just did an audit, it was about 97, little over 97% occupied, but it was bringing in money if it was 63% occupied. Okay, there's a big pause there, because unbelievable. That's unbelievable. And the reason was they were giving so many discounts to get people in, and the discounts were non-expiring. If you have a non-expiring discount, it just goes on forever. If that person is supposed to be at 150 and they're at 100, well, heck yeah, they're going to stay there. And there's no problem on going up on those people and getting someone else in, especially when they're that full. And you're really not maximizing the profitability of the store if you're 100% occupied. I'd say even if you're in the 98s, 9900, somewhere in there, you're not maximizing the profitability of what your store can actually make. You can also refer to company stores or to competitors. That's not my first choice to do, but if you're referring to the customer, if they need it today and you can't help them, I still think you should be good about referring it to someone else. And I would say, first off, if you have company stores, you should absolutely be sending them to one of your company stores. But if you don't, try a competitor. Find a competitor and say, hey, we're full on these 10 by 10s. How many do you have left, or can I send some people to you? I like that interaction with people. I have no problem doing that. I think it will come back to you in the long run. Someday when they have something full, they'll send someone back to you. So referring customers, it's just good. It's being a good competitor, and it's good for the customer too. You can say, hey, I actually know that this place down that's right next to us here, they have some available, and her name is Ruth, and you can talk to Ruth there, and let me give you her number. But I also like to call the competitor after I've talked to the person, so I can say, hey, just letting you know we're sending a customer over now. His name's Mark, and he's interested in a 10 by 10. That will come back to you in spades if you do it right for someone else. Where it goes around comes around in life, and I think being a good competitor like that, it doesn't hurt anyone as long as if you're completely full. But again, manage your property the best you can. Thank you so much for listening to this. This is just a quick webinar to get you all excited if you're full and how we can help you make more money. If you are interested in an audit or any of our consulting services, give me a call. It's 1-800-374-7545. Again, my name's Carol Mixon Crindle.